This project at the Old Selfridges Hotel is really sort of experiment. We're putting together a series of vitrines as well as videos and projections and installations which will evoke this idea of a thread from the early 80s to the present day. What we're trying to plot is the idea that there might have been exchanges of influence between chefs, designers, artists, people running clubs, and all manner of people who've become really synonymous with counterculture in London, and artists and designers working now coming to the fore. And we're just going to see if we can join the dots. The first vitrine that you'll see here is called Mudlarking. It features images, photographs taken by Nicola Tyson, and it shows Judy Blame and John Moore, both of whom were members of the House of Beauty and Culture. Mudlarking, they're scavenging for bits and pieces that they would eventually sew into their outfits. People like Judy Blame would turn the old bones into necklaces. Here are London creative folk taking from the Thames bits and pieces which they're going to rework into art. Really, this is the primordial bog from which creative London arises. House of Beauty and Culture are very well represented here with 3 vitrines, no less. They took over a property on the Kingsland Road, and it was from there that they sold their wares. Old scavenged post office bags being turned into jackets, and various items which are found about London being turned into jewellery. And the floor, I believe, is covered in old copper coins. It's really at that point at which London's subculture starts to become very lively after a period of just a singular punk message, and starts to be expanded and very interested in things and producing objects of great beauty. There are many clubs represented here, and people from clubs like Geoffrey Hinton. You'll see one of his vitrines. He was the resident DJ at Taboo, which in turn became a place for many young designers and fashionista at the time to gather, including Body Map, which you'll see in this next vitrine. And there was also a designer then called John Crancher, who worked with his own form of radical chic and produced many clothes bearing the Anarchy logo. It's at this point that clubs around Taboo give way to Delirium. Delirium, you'll see represented here through the moment at which hip-hop arrives in London. It's famously where Run DMC and the Beastie Boys and LL Cool J all performed in one night on stage. We have John Akomfra, Blackatronica. We also then move into Freeze, perhaps that pivotal moment in the history of the London art world where, as a magazine, it begins to document the imminent rise of the YBAs, which you see here. YBA itself being somewhat linked to salvage culture, because initially it was just about borrowing old buildings and turning bits of skips into art. You have Factual Nonsense as well, which started from absolutely nothing. Founded by Joshua Compson, it became not just a gallery, but a broader project in which he staged a number of events, most notably The Fate Worse Than Death in Shoreditch. Imprint 93 was started by Matthew Higgs and shows what can be done with a photocopier and some staples, and ended up being one of the most influential art publications of the day. Moving through, you will see things like Bart Wells Institute, which was a group of artists, but this time focused primarily on artistic production. And it recalls perhaps the shop run by Sarah Lucas and Tracy Emin, or even, as we see here as well, the Sarah Lucas and Angus Fairhurst studio. But Bart Wells Institute leads us to the East End into a moment where you'll start to see clubs like Boombox, Radio Egypt, but also art projects like White Cubicle, started in the toilet of the George and Dragon pub. Here, White Cubicle is reinvented, the vitrine having been pretty much more or less turned into a toilet. As the London creative scene becomes more fractured, it starts to move around, and in fact all of these vitrines really are associated as much with places in London as anything else. But by the time we now get to Pellé's Empire and certainly Chisenhall Gallery, we're very much firmly in the East End. In fact, at the point at which we reach Eddie Peake's club, Anal House Meltdown, we're very much firmly in Dalston. Dalston is very synonymous now with new creativity, as is Peckham, as embodied by the likes of Lucky PDF seen here. It's really charting this move to new waters, but also pointing the way forward are designers like Beth and Laura Wood, and also Louise Gray.